Discover the heartwarming twist. A paralyzed CO's life-changing date reveals an unexpected love. Caleb Thompson sat in his glass office, staring down at the bustling streets of Chicago. A lover of the city once. Now it felt like a world beyond his reach, a premonition of all that had been lost. Since the accident, a pressure built in his chest, an emptiness that clawed at him relentlessly. He was a CEO, respected for his acumen, yet isolated by the very glass walls that elevated him. Old friends floated in and out of his thoughts like shadows, unable or unwilling to comprehend the depth of his struggle. As he organized a charity event for disabled veterans, a flicker of purpose ignited within him. It was a chance to connect, a way to break the invisible chains that bound him to his loneliness. Amid the clinking of glasses and murmurs of guests, fate intervened in the form of Sarah, a waitress who juggled 2 jobs to support her family. Her infectious laughter cut through the haze of his melancholy, drawing him in like a moth to a flame. They talked amidst the discordant sounds of the venue, laughter mingling with the aroma of fresh coffee. She shared stories of her life, of dreams deferred and battles fought. Caleb listened, captivated. Her resilience mirrored his own fight for purpose. Yet, behind each word she spoke, he felt a nagging worry. What could someone like her possibly see in him? The CEO, paralyzed from the waist down, burdened by wealth and tragedy, contrasted sharply with her bright, hopeful spirit. His insecurities swelled like a tidal wave when an old colleague, fueled by jealousy, sabotaged Caleb's charity event. Public humiliation washed over him, each sneer and laugh from the crowd echoing in his ears, tearing at his already fragile self-esteem. He felt exposed and vulnerable, retreating back to the isolation of his glass tower, convinced that he was merely a burden to Sarah. "It's for the best," he whispered to himself, pushing her away. Back in his office, he mistook his loneliness as safety, a desperate necessity to keep the world at bay. He gazed out at the city, each moving car a metaphor for the life that slipped through his fingers. Day turned into night, and with it, a deep sense of despair settled heavy in his heart. Caleb had hoped for connection, but the walls he built grew taller and thicker. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Granting the world no entry, Caleb shrunk deeper into his monochrome heartache. Just as he lost hope, whispers of admiration bubbled up from the community around him. Inspired by his bravery, they rallied, showcasing a truth he dared not remember. Worth lay not in empirical success, but in human connections. In the depths of that newfound awareness, something stirred within him, a flicker of hope that pierced the heavy veil of despair. Just as he began to muster the courage to reach out, a familiar figure stepped into his office. It was someone he never expected to see again. Would this encounter bring the closure he desperately desired, or wound him deeper, forcing him to confront the very insecurities he thought he had buried? Caleb's heart raced as he slowly recognized the figure standing in the doorway. It was Rachel, his former assistant, someone he had trusted implicitly, someone who had been there for him through the beginning of his rise to prominence. Yet, since the accident, their paths had diverged. "Caleb," she said, a tentative smile breaking across her face. Her eyes sparkled with a mix of surprise and something softer, deeper. Rachel had always been a calming presence, a grounding force amid the chaos of corporate life. Now, standing there, she seemed like a ghost from a happier past, reminding him of all he once was. "I heard about the charity event. I thought I'd come by and see how you've been." "I'm fine," he replied too quickly, the words slipping out without thought. He willed himself to remain composed, but the tension enveloping the room felt stifling. "Are you really?" Rachel asked, her voice cautious. There was no hiding behind the mask in her presence. She had always read him effortlessly, instantly peeling back his layers. Caleb shifted uncomfortably in his chair, the unfamiliar sensation of vulnerability creeping back in. "It was just a rough day," he admitted, the weight of shame clashing with the need to be open. I messed up the charity event. It was supposed to be for a good cause, and instead, it fell apart. Rachel stepped closer, her gaze steady. You gave it your all, Caleb. You've never been one to back down from a challenge. That's what made you a great leader. It's okay to feel like you've stumbled. You are still that same person you were before. You haven't lost that. Silence hung between them, thick and expectant. Caleb felt his defenses crumbling. It just feels like everything has changed, he confessed. I can't even step outside my own office without feeling trapped. His voice quivered slightly, exposing a crack in the facade he had built. Change is hard, but it can also lead to new beginnings, she said gently. What's important is that you don't lose sight of who you are deep down. You're more than just your accident, Caleb. Her words hit him like a punch. For the first time in a long while, he felt a flicker of something, the tiniest, almost imperceptible sense of hope. I don't know if I can, he whispered. The vulnerability of his heart bared wide open. Rachel's eyes softened, and she leaned closer. You don't have to do it alone. You have people who care about you, people who want to help you. The thought twisted something within him, a blend of discomfort and gratitude. The room became filled with a warm hope, light filtering through the darkness. But just as he began to entertain the idea of reaching out, the cruel echo of that old colleague's laughter wormed its way back into his mind, a reminder of past humiliations. What if I disappoint them again? Caleb breathed, the words slipping out in a barely audible murmur. Maybe instead, you could inspire them, Rachel replied, her voice steady. You know, the world needs to see someone like you, someone who refuses to be defined by setbacks. Think of what your story could bring to others. The warmth in her words wrapped around him, igniting a longing he thought was extinguished. Suddenly, the idea of being vulnerable didn't seem as terrifying. But just as hope dared to blossom, an unexpected sound echoed from the corridor, the voice of Sarah, the waitress who had brought a spark into his life. Caleb's heart raced again, this time from a different kind of emotion. Rachel glanced toward the door, eyebrows raised. Are you ready to confront your fears? She asked softly. In that moment, faced with the resurgence of both his past and potential future, Caleb realized that he might just have to. What awaited him beyond the threshold of his comfort zone? Would he find the strength to embrace both Rachel's encouragement and the feelings stirring in him for Sarah? The moment hung in the air, thick with uncertainty. As the door creaked open, Caleb took a deep breath, ready to step into the unknown, ready to face what lay on the other side. Would he finally learn to embrace the connections he so desperately needed? Caleb felt his pulse quicken as the door swung wide, revealing Sarah, standing there with an expression of confusion mixed with warmth. Her eyes, bright yet uncertain, met his. For a moment, the world around them blurred, and it was just the two of them, time stretching like taffy, his heart skipping rhythms he thought he'd lost. Caleb? She asked softly, tilting her head. I didn't expect to find you here, Sarah, he breathed, suddenly aware of the intoxicating scent of her vanilla and something citrusy. It felt familiar and comforting. Rachel's presence melted into the background, her influence steady yet unseen. It dawned on him that he had never allowed anyone to see this side of him, this vulnerable Caleb. And here stood Sarah, a glimmer of light in the murky depths he often traversed. Hey, he managed to say, a faint smile breaking through his unease. I was just talking. He glanced back at Rachel, their shared moment lingering in the air, then turned his gaze back to Sarah. How was work? It was fine, she replied, her gaze skimming over Rachel before resting back on him. I brought you this. She stepped closer, extending a paper bag filled with what looked like his favorite pastries. Thought you might like a little treat after, well, whatever it is you've been up against. His heart swelled at her thoughtfulness. You didn't have to do that, he said, his voice cracking slightly. But thank you. The atmosphere changed subtly when Rachel cleared her throat. I should give you two some privacy. She shot Caleb an encouraging smile, a silent pact that whatever was about to unfold was his to navigate. Wait, Sarah said, her brow furrowing in earnest. Rachel, right? I know you. You used to work with Caleb. The realization danced in her eyes, and Caleb felt a flicker of worry. He didn't want to delve into that past right now, but curiosity sparked between them. Rachel nodded. I did still a bit when necessary. But I think it's time for Caleb to find his footing again in every sense. Caleb offered an awkward smile. sensing the implication behind her words. "Good luck, Caleb," Rachel added, her voice warm yet firm. She stepped backward, exiting with a final, encouraging glance. The moment she left, Caleb felt the tension crackle. "I didn't want you to see, well, any of that," he confessed, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly. His heart raced not just from anxiety, but anticipation. Sarah shifted her weight, her eyes narrowing slightly in concern. "Are you all right? I know you've been through a lot, Caleb, but I saw the event. It's okay to feel however you feel, right? It's just hard. Sometimes it feels like it's all slipping away," he admitted, emotion thickening his throat. He found himself wanting to be open, to let her in, despite the fear gnawing at him. But then her expression softened, filling the space with an unspoken understanding. "You're not alone, you know." This felt like a lifeline. The invitation to share his struggle weighed heavily on him, both a blessing and a burden. Could he trust her with this piece of his life? "Sarah, I've been trying to persuade myself that I can do this all on my own," he said, the panic dulling as he realized how desperately he craved connection. "But I need help navigating through all this." Her face illuminated, and Caleb suddenly noticed the flicker of excitement in her gaze, as if he had spoken the magic words. "That's a good start. No one has to figure it all out by themselves. Look, let us take a break. Right now, just breathe with me." She stepped closer, her voice soothing as she guided him to take deep breaths, like a coach helping an athlete calm down before a big game. The weight of expectations slowly started to lift, replaced by a gentle warmth and something indefinable blooming in the air around them. "Maybe we could find some time to talk more," she suggested. The hope in her voice stirred something hopeful within him, urging him to seize this moment. "Yeah, maybe," he murmured, as the heaviness began to feel lighter. As they stood there, a quiet cocoon enveloping them, Caleb sensed the urge to lean into this newfound connection, but uncertainty still lingered at the edges of his mind. What would it mean to truly open up? Just then, the distant echo of laughter rang out from another room, pulling him back to reality. He could feel something beautiful within reach, but more than ever, he was aware of the risk. Could he really believe in the possibility of happiness again? Caleb's heart pounded at the thought that perhaps he was finally at the brink of reclaiming his life. But what if the past haunted him, urging him to retreat? Would he risk another disappointment? The line between fear and hope blurred, and as he held Sarah's gaze, he realized he had a choice to make. In that silence, filled with both anxiety and promise, Caleb knew that stepping forward could change everything. But would he muster the courage to take that leap? Caleb took a deep breath, the moment stretching thin like a fragile thread. He didn't want to ruin this newfound connection with questions or doubts. Sarah's presence felt like the first rays of sunlight breaking through a thick cloud cover, and he desperately needed that warmth. Can we go somewhere?" he finally asked, the words tumbling from his mouth before his mind could catch up. "Somewhere quiet?" Sarah's eyes widened with hope. "Yes, I know a little cafe a few blocks away. They have the best coffee and pastries. We can talk." He nodded, appreciating her enthusiasm. As they stepped out into the cool air, an unexpected sense of relief washed over him. The street bustled with life, the chatter of people and the fragrance of fresh coffee wrapping around them. It felt strangely comforting, as if normalcy was accessible, if only he reached for it. They walked side by side. But part of Caleb still felt like he was holding back, shackled by his fears. "You really didn't have to go out of your way for me, you know? I wanted to. I care," Sarah replied, her voice steady and sincere. "We all need someone to lean on." "I do too." "Yeah, maybe," he murmured, unsure if he truly believed her. As they entered the cafe, the cozy atmosphere enveloped them. Soft music floated through the air, and the scent of roasted coffee mingled with the sweetness of pastries. Caleb felt a flutter of nerves as they settled into a small table by the window. "So what is your favorite here?" Sarah asked, breaking the silence as she glanced at the menu. Her smile encouraged him to embrace the moment, to engage. "Definitely the almond croissant. It's flaky and just the right amount of sweet," he said, his heart lifting as he envisioned enjoying something simple yet delightful. After ordering their coffee and pastries, they returned to their table, the barrier of formality fading. With each sip and bite, he felt the walls start to crack, revealing glimpses of who he might be underneath the weight of regret. Tell me about yourself, Caleb. What do you love to do? Sarah's eyes sparkled with genuine curiosity. He hesitated, unsure of how to navigate this conversation. Well, I love hiking. Being outdoors makes me feel free. Like all the noise in my head fades away. But it hasn't been as easy lately. I can understand that, she replied, her own gaze reflecting a tinge of sadness. I think sometimes we lose sight of ourselves in the chaos of life. But there is so much beauty out there, waiting for us to notice, you know? Her words resonated with something deep within him, stirring a longing he had almost forgotten. Caleb leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper. It's hard to see the beauty when you feel so lost. Maybe you have to create your own beauty, she suggested gently, her smile unwavering. Every small step counts, no matter how daunting they seem. Their conversation flowed, a dance of vulnerability and connection. Caleb found himself sharing tales of his childhood, the comfort of family camping trips, and the adventures that made his heart race. With each story, it became a little easier to let go of the past. But just as he felt himself relaxing into this easy exchange, he spotted something in her eyes shift, a hint of doubt that echoed his own uncertainty. Caleb, do you really think moving forward is possible? Or are we just putting on a brave face? His heart sank for a moment. I want to believe it is, he replied, the truth weighing heavily on his heart. But it's terrifying. The past is hard to shake. Then let us shake it together, she said softly. I'll be here. But you have to promise to let me in. Let us face it together. Caleb's heart raced. Could he truly allow someone in? The prospect was both exhilarating and terrifying. Her hand found his across the table, fingers brushing against his. The warmth of her touch sent a jolt of energy through him, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the fear. I'm scared, Sarah, he admitted, his voice choked with emotion. Scared of what I might find once I begin to open up. Then let me be with you as you figure it out. We're stronger together. Her unwavering gaze drew him in, making the prospect of vulnerability feel less frightening. That glimmer of hope flickered brighter, a fire ignited against the dark uncertainties that loomed over him. As the ambience of the cafe enveloped them, Caleb felt a shift, as if by simply being there with her, he could reclaim pieces of himself he thought were lost. But just then, his phone buzzed on the table, pulling him back, an urgent message flashing across the screen, threatening to undo this fragile moment. He glanced at it, feeling his heart sink. Would this message change everything? Would it shatter the connection they were beginning to forge? He looked back at Sarah, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity, and realized he stood on a precipice, teetering between the past that haunted him and the future that beckoned him to take a leap. What would he choose to do next? Caleb's fingers hovered over his phone as the screen lit up with a message from his sister. He could feel the weight of it pulling him away from this moment, the warmth of Sarah's presence faltering even as she leaned in closer, worry knitting her brow. Is everything okay? Sarah asked softly, her voice like the calm before a storm. That he hesitated, torn between the chaos of family obligations and the fragile connection growing between them. It's just my sister. She's having a rough time, he replied, his heart heavy. I should probably, maybe it's not as urgent as it seems, she interrupted, her blue eyes searching his. You're here now, and you need this, too. Caleb felt a pang of guilt. How could he focus on this budding relationship when his family was struggling? But as he looked into Sarah's eyes, he could see her sincerity, a genuine concern that made him feel anchored. He set the phone down, determined to stay present. Let us forget it for now, he said, forcing a smile. Tell me more about you. What do you love? Her expression brightened, and the change in energy was palpable. Well, I love painting. There is something magical about taking a blank canvas and turning it into something that reflects emotion. She paused, her gaze distant for a moment. I used to paint more before life got overwhelming. Why don't you anymore? Caleb asked, intrigued. He could see the passion in her eyes when she spoke of it, like they had flickered to life beneath a dust of neglect. I guess I lost the time, she admitted, a trace of melancholy in her voice. But now, I'm trying to reclaim parts of myself I let go. Just like you. There was something so real about that shared struggle. It helped him see that he wasn't the only one grappling with lost identity, hope, and the need to rediscover what made him feel alive. What if we made a pact? He suggested, the idea forming unbidden in his mind. You paint, and I'll go hiking. We can push each other to find that beauty we talked about. Sarah's eyes sparkled with surprise. I love that idea. We could meet here every week and share our journeys. His heart warmed at the thought, a flicker of joy igniting in his chest. Yeah, that sounds perfect. The image of their future meetings played in his mind, each time a stepping stone away from the burdens of the past. But just as excitement surged, Caleb's phone buzzed again, this time more insistently. He glanced at the screen, dread pooling in his stomach. Another message from his sister. He knew he couldn't ignore it forever. Caleb? Sarah asked, noticing his shift in focus. I'm trying to be here with you, he said, feeling the struggle tug at him. It's just, everything feels so complicated. Maybe it doesn't have to be, she whispered, the warmth returning to her voice. Sometimes, the most significant changes come when we decide to be brave, even if it feels messy. He bit his lip, looking deeply into her eyes as if they could contain all the answers he sought. The truth was, he had been fleeing chaos for so long that he had nearly forgotten what it felt like to embrace life's unpredictability. Could he face both the weight of family obligations and the desire for connection all at once? I want to be brave, he said, his voice steadying. Will you help me? Absolutely, she replied, her smile igniting a flicker of undeniable hope. We'll tackle it together, but you have to promise to let go of the fear. Caleb nodded slowly. The fear still curled in his gut, but Sarah's words offered a lifeline. I'll try. But just then, deeper doubts crashed like waves in his mind. What if he couldn't handle both? What if the tangled web of family issues pulled him away from what was beginning to blossom here? As the cafe filled with laughter and the aroma of pastries, Caleb's heart raced with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. With one last look at his phone, he turned back to Sarah, resolved to confront the challenges that lay ahead. Can we make this work? He asked, his voice trembling with hopefulness. As Sarah's expression shifted to one of determination, he felt a small beacon of stability, but uncertainty loomed just beyond. What would he do when the phone rang again? Would he let their connection drift away, or have the courage to embrace this chance at happiness? The question lingered heavily, an echo of possibilities waiting on the edge of choice. Caleb took a deep breath, trying to shake off the anxiety that clung to him like a shadow. The cafe buzzed around them, each laugh and clatter a stark reminder of the life continuing on outside his worries. But here, with Sarah, he felt something shift, a flicker of possibility. I think we can, he said quietly, determination edging into his tone. I want to be here with you without feeling like I'm leaving something behind. Sarah reached across the table, her hand brushing against his, warm and steady. You're not leaving anything behind if you allow yourself to be present. You're entitled to joy, Caleb. You deserve happiness. Her words pulled at him, an invite dipped in sweetness. But right on cue, his phone buzzed again. The tension in his chest tightened. He glanced at the screen and saw, again, it was from his sister, her name lighting up the display with an urgency that couldn't be ignored. Just a second, he murmured, and, despite himself, picked up the phone. The bitter chill of anxiety washed over him as he read the message, a plea wrapped in confusion, a request for support that only deepened the weight on his shoulders. Her words swirled in his mind, demands that seemed impossible to reconcile. He held the phone tightly, his heart racing as he struggled with the choice. I need to answer this, he said, guilt crawling high in his throat. Hey, what is happening? Sarah asked, her concern palpable. It's my sister, he replied, his voice thick. She's going through a rough patch, and it sounds serious. The guilt clawed at him as he tried to decide. Caleb, it's okay to be there for her. But don't forget to take care of yourself too, she said gently. Her compassion was like a lifebuoy thrown in turbulent waves. I just don't know if I want to be here for you, for us, he admitted, his voice breaking slightly. Sarah smiled, a radiant thing that eased some of his worry. You can do both, you know. Supporting your family doesn't mean you have to give up on your own happiness. He felt the truth in her words sink in and clutched the phone tighter, fighting against the urge to respond immediately. You're right, he said, his voice steadier now. I can make time for both. The resolve settled in him more strongly than before. Suddenly, Sarah's expression shifted as she leaned a little closer. And I promise, whatever happens, I'll be here cheering you on. But you have to let me in when you need help. The warmth of her words washed over him, and he found himself nodding, relief flooding his chest. Outside, the world continued in its whirlwind pace, and Caleb felt something gently shift within him. It was as if a light flickered on, showing the path ahead rather than the fear of what lay behind. Okay, let us make a plan then, he said, finding joy in the very notion. You'll start painting, and I'll get out hiking. We can share our progress every week. Sarah nodded, her eyes brightening. Yes, and I want to hear all about your adventures. He couldn't help but smile. In that moment, she had made him feel like a part of something beautiful. But just then, his phone pinged again, pulling him back into the tension. His heart raced. It was a call this time, and he knew it could only mean one thing: his family was in turmoil. As he hesitated, the familiar knot of anxious anticipation formed in his stomach. Could he really balance this newfound joy with the chaos of his family? Sarah, he started, glancing from the phone to her, uncertainty tugging at him once more. Her steady gaze met his. Go ahead, Caleb. I'll be right here when you get back. He took one last look at her smile, warmth enveloping him like a blanket, and finally pressed answer. But the words that came through were heavier than he expected, and as he listened, Caleb's world tipped on its axis. What he learned next could change everything. What was it that would be revealed about his family? And would he be strong enough to handle what was coming? Caleb pressed the phone to his ear, his heart thundering in his chest. His sister's voice came through, shaky and fraught with emotion. Caleb, I'm really scared. It's not just the usual stuff. Mom fell again. I don't know what to do. He felt his breath catch, the weight of her words sinking in like a stone. Memories of his mother's laughter tangled with flashes of worry from the last few months. Each time she stumbled, it became heavier. Each fall felt like another crack in the fragile foundation of their family. Is she okay? Caleb managed, trying to steady his voice despite the tremors of panic threatening to break through. She's in the hospital. They think she may need surgery this time. I can't. Her voice cracked, and his heart ached at the uncertainty cloaked in her fear. Okay, I'll be there, he said more firmly, the resolve building. I'll drive up tonight. Can you keep me posted? Thank you. I really need you right now. The phone slipped from his fingers as he hung up, landing with a soft thud on the tabletop. He stared blankly, his mind racing through a cacophony of thoughts. Caleb? Sarah's voice cut through his fog. Pain and concern radiated from her gaze. What happened? He looked up at her, fighting to hold back the wave of anxiety attacking him. It's my mom. She's in the hospital. They think she might need surgery. Oh, Caleb, I'm so sorry. Her hand found his again, squeezing it gently. You need to go be with her. His heart felt heavy as he nodded, unsure how to navigate the emotions swirling within him. I don't feel like I can handle this and still be there for you too. I can't help but feel selfish for having this time with you. Caleb, she said, her voice steady, yet soft. Caring for your family doesn't take away from what we have, and it doesn't make you selfish. You have to do what feels right to you. Right now, it feels like chaos. He rubbed his hand down his face, breathing through the onset of a headache. What if my mom needs me, and I'm not there? Then go, she urged. You'll be okay. I'm not going anywhere. Just promise me you'll talk to me during this. Sharing the load helps, remember? His chest tightened with emotion. How had she become his anchor in this storm? I promise, he said, his voice softening. But I don't want to leave you. He wrestled with the pain of leaving her behind for something so urgent. The soft warmth of her hand in his steadied him. You have to take care of your mom first. She needs you. Suddenly, Caleb felt a shuddering realization. He may have to face the chaos of family, but there was a place waiting for him in Sarah's heart, and she was willing to keep that door open for him. Okay, he breathed, feeling a shift. I'll go home, help out. Maybe I can even get some clarity. Exactly, she smiled gently. You're strong enough for this, Caleb. And when it gets hard, just think about the moment you stand back up. His spine straightened slightly at her encouragement, and he took one last look at the cafe, the laughter, the chatter, all fading into the background. What if this upheaval was the catalyst for the change he needed? What if supporting his family could actually bring him closer to who he wanted to be? As he stood up, ready to leave, Sarah's hand lingered on his for just a moment longer, reassuring and electric. Keep me posted, please. I will, he promised, the weight lightening, just a bit. Thank you for understanding. With a quick hug, a breath of warmth and comfort, he promised he'd find his way back to her. Little did he know, the journey ahead held more than he anticipated. As he stepped outside, a chill wind gusted, ruffling his hair and carrying away some of his apprehension. His phone buzzed again, another message from his sister. He stared at the words, a knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach once more. What had he just stepped into? Would he find the strength to endure what lay ahead? And why did he suddenly feel as though his family's turmoil might just reveal unexpected truths about himself as well? Caleb gripped the steering wheel with white knuckles, the hum of the road beneath him a muted background to his racing thoughts. Each mile marker felt heavy with expectation, jolting him deeper into worry. The news about his mom sat like a stone in his gut. She had always been their family's heart, the one who connected them with sweetness and laughter. Now it felt like that heartbeat was fading. His phone buzzed again, vibrating against the console. A glimpse of his sister's name flashed on the screen. A jolt of panic surged through him. He could only imagine what new development had occurred. He hesitated for a moment, then pressed the button, lifting the phone to his ear. Caleb? Her voice trembled, and he could picture her, shifting anxiously from foot to foot, waiting for anything that might ease the fear threading through her words. Hey, I'm on my way, he reassured her. What is going on? Mom's in surgery now, she breathed out, a small relief threading into the fear. The doctors said it was more complicated than they thought. I just don't know what to do, Caleb. The heaviness landed again. What do you mean? Is she going to be okay? I don't know, she admitted, her voice wobbling. They said it's too early to tell. I'm trying to be strong, but what if this is it? Caleb's heart shattered at her distress. No, we won't think like that. We've been through too much together, he said, his firm tone faltering. I'll be there soon. I promise. He ended the call, squeezing his eyes shut for a fleeting moment. The ache of helplessness pressed down on him, like a weight he couldn't shake off. He glanced out the window at the blurred landscape. How could he even begin to support his sister when he felt so lost himself? Pulling into the hospital parking lot, he forced a deep breath, reminding himself that he wouldn't collapse under the burden. He needed to at least be a comforting presence for his sister. Together, they could manage the storm. Whatever it was. As he walked through the hospital doors, the antiseptic scent hit him. He was met with the familiar bustle of nurses and doctors darting in and out. The sterile atmosphere was filled with a nervous electricity. He spotted his sister sitting in the waiting room, her face pale against the stark backdrop of green and white. Caleb, she whispered as he approached, her relief visible. He noticed the tears pooling in her eyes, the weight of worry carrying down her shoulders like damp clouds. Hey, he said softly, wrapping an arm around her. She leaned into him, and he felt her trembling. You're doing great. We just need to hang tight. Is it wrong that I don't know how to be brave? She murmured against his shoulder. Not at all, he replied. You don't have to hold everything together alone. I'm here. Her vulnerability touched him in a way that rekindled his fire. Perhaps this was what he needed, a solid connection to ground him through the chaos they faced. Just then, the surgical door swung open. A doctor stepped out, looking tired yet resolute. The moment froze before them, a collective breath held in anticipation. What if it's bad news? His sister whispered, fear creeping into her voice again. Caleb squeezed her hand, feeling the pulse of uncertainty between them. We'll face whatever it is together, he vowed. As the doctor approached, Caleb couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would pivot not just their family's fate, but also his own understanding of strength and courage. Would the answers they sought bring them closer, or would it tear at the bonds they had fought to maintain? He could barely breathe as he waited, thoughts spiraling. What exactly would this news hold for him, for his family? The doctor's expression was poised, but would it carry with it a glimmer of hope? The doctor approached, his brow slightly furrowed. Caleb felt his heart quicken, drumming louder in his ears as he braced himself for the inevitable words that could change everything. The slight tilt of the doctor's lips was enough for a flicker of hope, but anxiety twisted in Caleb's chest. Hopes could crack just as easily as they could shine bright. Hello, I'm Dr. Mitchell, the doctor said, his tone calm yet firm. I'm here to give you an update on your mother's surgery. Caleb's grip on his sister's hand tightened, as if he could transfer his strength to her. How is she? Is she okay? His voice felt hoarse, each word heavy with the weight of waiting. Doctor. Mitchell took a breath, glancing between the two siblings. The surgery went as well as we could have hoped. There were complications, but we were able to address them. Your mother is in recovery now. Relief flooded Caleb. They were still in the fight. His sister let out a sob that cracked through the tension, a sound of joy mingled with fear. He wrapped his other arm around her, pulling her close. Can we see her? She asked, wiping tears from her cheeks. Yes, shortly, the doctor replied. She's stable now, but it's best to give her a little time to wake up. As the doctor explained the next steps, Caleb found it hard to focus. The rush of emotions washed over him like waves: fear, relief, gratitude. It was all a heady mix that he wasn't sure how to process. They were going to have more time with their mom. Once out of earshot of the doctor, Caleb turned to his sister, who was still trembling with emotion. You see, we're not losing her. I was so scared, Caleb, she admitted, her voice shaking. What if we hadn't gotten to her in time? He took a step back, searching her eyes. But we did. We're here, and she is going to fight just like she always has. Together, okay? I don't know if I can handle more bad news, she replied, her vulnerability making the gravity of the moment sink deeper. We've been through storms before, and each time, we found our way back to the light. We can do that again. His own conviction surprised him, a flash of bravery he hadn't anticipated. Sitting in the waiting area, their minds roiling with possibilities, they took solace in their shared quiet. Caleb watched people come and go, a parade of uncertainty and worry. It made him realize how connected they all were. Hearts beating, families waiting, all hoping for good news. Hours trickled by, but eventually, they were finally led to her recovery room. The beeping of machines formed a heartbeat in the background as they entered. Caleb's heart softened as he looked at his mother. She appeared so fragile but peaceful against the white sheets, surrounded by soft lighting. A tidal wave of love and relief washed over him. Hey, Mom, he whispered. She looked so small lying there, but her spirit always loomed large in their lives. His sister stepped closer, gently brushing her fingers against their mother's hand. We're here, she added softly. We love you. As they stood together, feeling almost like a prayer enveloping her room, Caleb noticed their mom's eyelids fluttering. The moment felt electric, raw with possibility. Mom, can you hear us? He asked, excitement mingling with apprehension. She stirred a bit more. Caleb squeezed his sister's hand. The three of them gathered like a shield against whatever lay ahead. But just then, the monitor beeped unevenly, and their mother's face tightened into a frown. A nurse rushed in. Caleb's heart dropped again. The sense of security they had built felt like it could once more shatter. Stay right here, the nurse instructed, a flurry of activity building around her. Caleb exchanged a glance with his sister, worry painting their eyes. What did this mean? As they held their breath, waiting for the unfolding crisis, uncertainty gripped them anew. Would this be the moment that tested their bonds once and for all? Caleb's heart raced as he watched the nurse move swiftly, urgency etched in every motion. The beeping monitor went haywire, and a knot of fear twisted viciously in his stomach. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as dread seeped into every corner. After what felt like an eternity, another nurse joined, and together they began adjusting medications and checking vital signs. Caleb's sister clutched his arm, her breath hitching in her throat. What is happening? She whispered, her voice a tremor of panic. I don't know, Caleb replied, his own words sounding hollow. He needed to stay calm for her sake. Just breathe, okay? She's a fighter. She has always been. Moments later, the medical team stabilized his mother's vitals, and slowly, the chaos faded back into a stillness, a quiet sigh of relief, albeit heavily laced with tension. Mom. Caleb was on the edge of his chair, leaning forward, willing her to wake up, to open her eyes and reassure them that everything would be all right. But her eyes remained closed, stubbornly resting against the fabric of the moment. Suddenly, the flicker of eyelids broke through the stillness, and Caleb's breath caught. His mother blinked slowly, the haze of confusion lifting. Caleb? Beth? She croaked, her voice a whisper laden with exhaustion. Hey, Mom. Caleb rushed forward, nearly knocking his sister over. They both held her hands, squeezing gently. You scared us for a minute there. I'm sorry, she managed, a weak smile breaking through. Despite her frailness, the warmth of her spirit danced back into the room. Just was tired. Caleb chuckled lightly, the pressure of fear easing just a bit. Yeah, well, you can't go scaring us like that, all right? We need you, Mom. I know, she replied, her voice faint but filled with a strength he remembered. I'll get better. I always do. The words had a calming effect, soothing his frayed nerves. Of course you will, his sister chimed in, wiping her eyes. We're not losing you, Mom. We're in this together. Caleb felt something shift, a dawning realization that this storm, while terrifying, also brought them together. It reinforced the idea that family messy, complicated, emotional was everything. In those quiet moments, with their mom bound to the hospital bed, they forged a bond that was unbreakable, a commitment to each other, not just in hardship, but in joy too. As they chatted softly, the mundane stories of daily life punctuated by laughter and reminiscing, Caleb's heart lightened a little more. He thought of Sarah, her words, her unwavering support, her gentle understanding that had allowed him to embrace vulnerability. It was a powerful lesson in connection, one he needed to carry home with him. Yet, even as relief washed over him, lingering uncertainty danced in the corners of his mind. Could he juggle this life crisis while growing closer to Sarah too? Not long after, the doctor re-entered, delivering news that brought genuine hope. Your mother is stable and will require some time to recuperate, but she is in good hands, he reassured them, outlining the recovery plan. Caleb could feel the weight of dread lift, replaced by a cautious optimism blossoming in his chest. Thank you, Caleb breathed, confidence returning with each word spoken. As the doctor finished, he exchanged glances with his sister, and in that shared understanding, a plan began to unfold, one where they would tackle responsibilities together, sharing the load. As the sun dipped low, casting a golden hue over the sterile room, Caleb reflected on his own journey. Just like his mother was learning to lean on her family, he realized he needed to lean on Sarah. Hey, can we talk? He thought, tapping on his phone. He sent a quick message to Sarah, warmth blooming at the prospect of that connection. This idea of sharing burdens, grown from both fear and joy, felt like the way forward. Somewhere amid this chaos, his heart had unlocked. And it's in that moment he understood life would still be messy, but it would be full of beauty, laughter, and togetherness. Standing before his mother's bed, he clasped her hand. I'll be right here every step of the way, Mom. You're not alone. And with rediscovered clarity, he vowed to bring this into every corner of his life, to embrace love in all forms, and to face every tumultuous moment head-on. In the midst of fear and chaos, Caleb had discovered hope, a thread tying together fractured pieces of himself and the beautiful unknown that awaited him. As he stood beside his family, the thought of Sarah lingered, a reminder that love wraps around us, even in the shadow of uncertainty. Now, Caleb understood. He wasn't just choosing one path or the other, he was embracing both, allowing his heart to be guided by connection, compassion, and unwavering relationships. Before he knew it, notifications dinged, and a smile stretched across his face. He felt a reassurance in the storm. And just like that, a new chapter began. What about you? Are you ready to embrace the power of connection in your life? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share.